Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you all here tonight. I might bring a bit of focus on, so there's a number of people that are experiencing cold again tonight. It seems that it's going around. Some have kids and others don't, but there's definitely been some nasty colds going around. So let's see if we can bring a bit more focus on our lungs and kidneys tonight. Um, and then movement, just keeping our body primed. So in illness in Qigong actually is always perceived to be when we fall out of alignment with our Shen, with our true self. It's never just a physical thing. It's always seen as an involvement of all the layers, the physical, the mental, emotional, and the spiritual. But the most important, especially when we start talking about serious diseases, that we're actually have fallen off are the path of our destiny, essentially following other guides that are not really in alignment, keeping us in alignment with what's true for self. Okay, so when it comes to our practice, we start always by stepping into the Wuji posture. So just take a moment to notice what changes within you when you step into that posture. It's a willful act that you do. And it's not just a physical change. There's an invitation to your inner wisdom to match what you're doing with the intent of your posture. And so we'll complete this invitation by bringing down the heavens. Using the first sweep in the front of the body, clear obstacles in your fields, clear perception, informed practice. So now the back of the body. And then gathering earth and heaven energy now to drawing that through the crown. Imagining now clearing the internal organs of noise, of old stories, of things that no longer serve you. All the way down into the feet. One of the things that we do in the more advanced practice is what we call the 1 through 10 meditation. We'll do a kind of a quick exploration of that tonight. And if there's something you want to explore more, then I'll start spending a bit more time with it. So let's bring down the heaven again. We'll just start it this way. And then sweeping the front, the back, and the center. Again, clearing, drawing your what stands in the way and your awareness down all the way into your feet. And then letting this movement now continue down below your feet. So imagine your awareness, or let your awareness sink below your feet. One body line, the second body line. And let that go as far as the center of the earth. In that place, imagine connecting with the wisdom of this earth. Strength of this earth, the nourishing features of this earth, energetically, physically, emotionally. And then drawing that back into your legs, up into the spine, all the way up to the top of the head, and then letting it come around down the front. Let your tongue touch behind your teeth, the upper teeth, and letting this flow come down the front all the way into the lower abdomen. And letting this energy be there for the moment, then gathering again from your feet up. So letting this being like a siphon. This is a continuous process, gathering into the lower abdomen. So always bringing up through the legs, around the back, so up the back, sorry, around to the front. And then gathering and gathering into the lower dantian, the lower abdomen. And then let's do once more, gathering from the feet. Around the microcosmic orbit, down the front. And then on the next in-breath, imagining drawing all this energy now up the center of your body to your heart. And at your heart, let it divide into two flows that come down your arms and it exits at your hands and your wrists, your fingers. And this energy from the earth now gathers around your body, rising around you to form a cocoon. And it spins around you counterclockwise when you look from above. So from right to left. And letting this cocoon, maybe you can imagine it as a golden yellow light from the earth, rising around you until you're fully encircled into this cocoon. And then on the next in-breath, let this cocoon expand. So you're still gathering to that root. Let it expand towards the walls and the ceiling. And on the out-breath, let it relax. Let this cocoon be alive, energy field around you. Breathe in, let it expand again towards the walls and ceiling, and it relaxes. Once more. Then to complete this, we do a connection to the heavens. Now imagine opening your crown, top of your head, to all the light of the celestial body. The sun, the moon, other galaxies, the stars. Silver white light that enters through the crown and fills the area that we call the upper dantian, where your brain is. Filling this area up first. Imagine the silvery white light of all these celestial bodies filling that space. And then when it's full, it overflows. It overflows into what we call the middle dantian. And these two, all the dantians actually, are connected by this central pole of energy that we call the taiji pole. Imagining from the upper dantian, the silvery white light overflowing through the taiji pole into the middle dantian, where your heart and lungs. Letting the silvery white light also accumulate here. And letting this area overflow through the taiji pole down into the lower dantian. The energy continues to pour through your crown, overflowing each of these dantians, even the lower dantian that overflows now into the pelvic cavity. Funny enough, the picture I have of this is that of a chocolate fountain. So this abundance of light, I guess, in this case. And then it fills the abdominal cavity as well. And the thoracic cavity. And then it continues to fill and fill until it presses against the internal cavities of your body. And it presses so hard that it starts to seep now through the pores, the 10,000 dharma gates and the joints. And it blends with the earth energy around you. And in doing so, it re-energizes those three Wei Qi fields that we've explored before. Physical Wei Qi, so protective field, the mental, emotional, and the spiritual. The last step of this meditation is when we let these fields now expand and blend with the natural environments around us. in this artificial light, it's a bit be difficult to imagine clearly. Whatever you're able to acknowledge in this moment as you extend these fields into the surrounding trees and grass, night sky, rain that we hear. This meditation is called the energetic setup. We do that in the more advanced practice. Certainly to become practitioners and therapists in medical Qigong, this is part of our daily practice and our daily um, offerings of sessions. Okay. So from here, we'll go into our, any questions so far on this? Okay, so let's rake through the meridians, imagining your fingers of light, extending from your fingers of flesh. And as you breathe in, coming up the inside of your legs, the front of your body, the armpits, inside of your arms, to the wrists, gathering here, and breathing it out. Now starting at the back of the wrists, back of the arms, side and back of the head, down the back itself, and side and back of the legs, all the way to the ankles. Gathering here, breathing out. So as you do this, imagine being able, this light to be able to reach to the center of these surfaces, that you're raking through the meridians, the flesh, the muscles, the bones, letting your mind guide just how far in the body you're willing to rake through. And one more time. Breathing in as you're coming up, gathering, and out. One more time at the back. Breathing in as you gather. Gathering again at the ankles. So before coming up, reaching into the wisdom of this earth, the presence of this earth, the qualities of this earth. Breathe that in and bring it up. Then rest it into your lower dantian. Let's go into counter swing. Breathing in and out. So one breath in, second breath in, breath out. So I'm going to tailor the practice tonight with the idea that we're maybe using our practice while we're having a cold. So typically in Chinese medicine, the intent is to help what the body is already doing. It's true in herbal medicine as well, homeopathy. So our movement is just geared to help the body accomplish what it's already doing. So we're not focused so much tonight on purging. We're just going to focus on opening and moving, keeping the body in harmonious communication. Well, let's complete this exercise with the next in breath and out breath. So one way to activate the immune system is focusing on some of the acupuncture points that are useful for this. So for most colds, this point here, if you bring your thumb towards your hand, I guess, closing the thumb onto the hand, there's a mound here. That's large intestine 4. So one way for us to activate it is to just tap in here. So you're activating both points at the same time. So just for general activating of the immune system, which in Chinese medicine does not really exist. They don't really talk about the immune system. Relax more. You're all so intent on doing it right. So relax more. So yeah, okay. And then, so the other one, so if you, even on the shirt, you kind of see it. This is large intestine 11. So at the end of the elbow crease is large intestine 11, right? And that point is often tender. If you press there, you'll find it is tender. So you can use either a loose fist like this, but loose fist, right? So you're letting my hand be quite relaxed. So where I'm hitting this with intent, but not with stress or not being mean to that point, I guess. Yeah. So one side and then the other side. So these are very good points whenever you're dealing with a cold. The one at our hand, large intestine 4, is very good to open up the flow in the face, the nose, and all that. So that's actually a major control point for anything that has to do with the face and the head. If you have a cough, the large intestine, so the lung meridian starts here and it comes down towards the thumb. So that whole surface here. So you can feel at the elbow, there's that big tendon. So on the thumb side of that tendon is lung 5. So this one also, if you have a cough, you can tap here. It's very good for removing heat. So any kind of infection is generally labeled as heat in the body. So in the lungs or wherever else the infection may be. So here and on the other side. And then if we go inside here is lung 10, which is often used together for heat in the lungs. So the thenar eminence is that bulbous part here behind the thumb. So just where, if you follow that part with your hand here, when you hit the flange and the bone here, that's where lung 10 is. So this one, we could even just do it like this, tap it like that, maybe with the, so however we activate it, this seems a bit more precise for me actually, with the fingers. You can massage it as well, but this is much more Qigong-like, like the whole tapping. You'll see that sometimes when you go to China. You see actually most of the Asian people, Chinese, do that here. Like I said, in China, Qigong is not as welcome as it used to be, interestingly. And it's because teachers have exported themselves or the knowledge that we have access to it now. It used to be kept within the country. Right? So these are good points. And for good measure, we're also going to tap on the kidneys. So essentially what we're doing right now is opening up these meridians in places where it's most likely that there will be congestion, right? And there are ways to diagnose, but we're not going to explore that tonight. If you have a cough, those points that I showed are good. If you just have a general cold, the other 2 points, the first 2 points are good as well. Right. And let's shake things out of the body a bit more. So let's go into frog on lily pad. So we'll go gentle with that tonight. Again, we're just inviting opening, movement, in this case, more so in lymph and the veins. And of course, if you're too tired to do this, you might choose not to. You would just need to rest. You got some voice calling for me. Okay. So tonight we're not going to involve the heels. We're just going to let this gentle movement open up open up the circulation, blood vessels, our lymph vessels, into our cerebral spinal fluid. Letting your breath be long, relaxed, without forcing it. Where we need a nice, soothing Chinese theme music. I'll have to look into that. Is that working for you, Sheila? Are you feeling more comfort into it as if you do it too much? Okay. Okay. So if I forget after class, I'm curious as to what happens when it's too much. You can explore that after class in the Q&A. Okay. Well, I got into tapping my heels. I'm not even aware of it. So I'm not sick. So we're good. If it feels right, let your heels tap. on this exercise. That when I first learned it, I almost hated that exercise. And now it feels like I want to do more. Like I enjoy this exercise more and more. I think that's the way to say it. So I invite you to respect your limit on this too, so that at some point you realize that you've done enough. You don't have to persist through, right? So trust your limitations, trust what feels right. Yeah. Yeah. A bit of congestion in the door hinges. And slowing down and stopping calmly. Let's first return to Wuji posture. Pay attention to where your body weight rests. Pay attention to what's happening in the pelvis, in particular. So you want to let this be fairly relaxed and open, and a little bit round, the feeling of having a bowl here, which is pretty much the way that our hips are shaped. Letting this be bowl-like, which might feel like you're flattening your lower back a little bit. Bring your feet back together. And then stacking the bones. Bring your focus to kidney 1, so the front of the feet, and then coming up. And letting your focus, your mind, is still connected to this where your feet touch. As you elongate by adding the bones on top of each other. And then dropping the post and just loosening it a little bit. So this might be an exercise if you're not feeling so well that you would opt to not. Maybe because it might not be that easy to find focus when your sinuses are plugged and you want to sneeze all the time. You get a headache. And dropping the post. Loosening it a little bit. And once more. Letting your weight come to the front before you come. This movement is a very good way also to find out whether you're letting your weight be more at the front and not. Right? So we should be able to come up and down here. Good exercise for the calves, but also in drawing attention and having our body weight line up and down. So in this place here, there should be very little back and forth movement. You're just up and down, up and down. And you'll know if you go back on your heels, because now the room will start moving this way. Right? So when you're coming up and down, it's pretty much all you see from the side. It's like up and down, up and down. This is a very good way to train your body, develop a subconscious habit of having your weight more at the front. Your kidney 1 touch the ground. Back to Wuji posture. Okay, so let's complete this first set of exercises by bringing down the heavens again. So earth, heaven, in the front, Back in the center. Well, when we do this exercise, some of you are starting to notice that I'm starting with the weight on one side, and then the weight shifts to the other side. As far as I know, it doesn't matter which side we start. There's this involvement of one side and then the other. And it's not so much this, right? Very much like bringing again that focus into that leg here and then switching to the other leg. So if you notice what that does when you do this, it really brings this sense of rooting again, really rooted here, really rooted there. And so we were fortunate enough, it must have been 10 years ago, one of the senior students of our teacher in California, so the guy who wrote all the books that we were using for our theory, and he wrote these books, like there's about, I don't know, so they're about this big, this thick, each of them. There's 5 of them. And his main mission is that he's writing these, even though it goes against the old wisdom of China, that this knowledge was not meant to be written because it's about to disappear from China. So this is kind of a last ditch attempt to making sure that it doesn't disappear completely. So where am I talking about this? So one of his senior teachers came over and shared some really important facts about Qigong that I won't go into the whole story tonight, but I was fortunate to be part of that because my teacher in Victoria has been studying for a long time, but this is like a second lieutenant to the, like somebody really high up. So it was really privilege. Okay. So we're going to stick. So I'm still sticking to the idea that maybe we're going to doing this with the idea that we have a cold. So it feels like I want to start more with the 5 yin opening instead of the 5 yang. We're just going to follow that, and I'm not sure why. Let's just go with it. Now engaging the vertebrae one at a time. And adjusting your posture if you need to, so that you can keep your feet flat on the ground as you come into a crouch. And again, respect your limits. If you can't keep your heels down, just stop where it feels comfortable, and then breathe in, move in through the legs, and through the sacrum and each of the vertebrae as we come back. I'm going to do 6 of those tonight. Cycling to your breaths as you need to, up and down. If you can make this into one out breath, do. And same thing when you come up. This is just one in breath. That is also good. Otherwise, cycle as you need. One last one. And the next breath, letting your hands come back. I have to think about why the 5 yang opening does not feel right in this context. Right, I think so. Right. Yeah. I could see, I suppose, at the very beginning where sweating is actually appropriate. So in the understanding of Chinese medicine, when you feel the cold coming in, it's attacking your external surfaces. So it's trying to break through the immune system. So that uh, the approaches, the herbal wise, and even with acupuncture, is to bring on sweat. And then depending on what kind of cold you have, because we talk about wind cold or wind heat. So more sore throat would be a wind heat thing, whereas wind cold would be more like a runny nose, lots of runny nose, clear. Those have different approaches. The runny nose would be where ephedra would be used, for instance. And the more wind heat would be, we use actually peppermint is one of the main things for that. And the seeds of burdock. Yeah. Ubangza. I forget actually, Ubangza. No, well, no, that's the root, right? Yeah, yeah. So that would not be used. Actually, it's not used in Chinese medicine. Only the seeds that I know of. Interesting, eh? Yeah. They may, but they don't use it as a medicine, right? At least not in our pharmacopoeia. Right. Okay, so we'll do an exercise a bit different for the lungs, and this is also interestingly, I don't know if I've shared it before, but it can be used for breast diseases as well. So mastitis, it's used in cancer of the breast. And so we gather first qi in our hands. And of course, the louder the slap, the more qi you're gathering. No, just gather qi. And one more. So we're going to use this qi first by bringing our hands to our chest, right? So whatever structure, then you would bring your hands on the structure that you want to clear, letting the heat from your hands penetrate the tissue. So here, obviously, we want to open up the breathing functions. So there's two aspects of this exercise. The first one, as we breathe in, we come up the center and release out. So the fingers are lightly touching here or not touching at all. And you're going around the structure. And then right here is lung 1 and lung 2. So as you break through, you might want to imagine gathering any gunk that might be in your lungs and release it. And loosening, and trusting what feels true to you. Maybe you're doing that at every pass. And then maybe going back to loosening. So as you move your hands, I invite you to get your legs involved in this. So quite often, the exercises are meant to involve the whole body. Right? So since we're working from a integrative form of medicine where it's not just the lungs, it's the whole body. Right? So if I fall out alignment with Shen, It's actually all of me, not just the lung. Loosening, 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 and up. So this is a bit more powerful than what we've done before, because now we're using our fingers of light, or chi from our hands, to rake through the surfaces here. So again, it could be the lungs, it could be breasts, it's where the congestion is. As you reach here, you got all these lymph nodes, right? So not only are we moving our arms to activate everything here in the chest, but our intention is to actually clear. So whatever the body does with that intention, that's happening. But our intent here is to invite our wisdom, our healing wisdom, to release. Okay. So, oh yeah, anything that could be stuck. So here's something that you might want to consider, and we touched on that maybe last week when we did the 3 layers of sound, right? So if you want to work more into the emotional layer of the lungs, then you would work more here. Right? So a little bit further. So inviting the energetic part of the lungs, the mental emotional field, to clear the emotions. So lungs is sadness and grief. Right? Grief is a big one. Yeah. There might be tinge of guilt and shame as well, because that's what affects the large intestine, which is the paired organ to the lungs. In which case, you could still, do both the large intestine and lungs here as you do this exercise. Okay, so we're going to gather white again. So noticing that the color in this case is used in both flow, right? So we use the color at first to open up the lungs, to clear through the lungs. Now we're going to fill the lungs. We'll bring our hands again to the lungs. And then we go the other way. So now we're just sealing the chi from our hands, the white warmth into the lungs. The breath out is on the way down. And then just stopping here. Now, as you move like this, there might be cough that happens. Cough is a really good thing. It's our body's wisdom that's want to expel toxins that are in the lungs, or phlegm that's in the lungs. Of course, if it's too weak, or if there's too much phlegm, it's too sticky, then they might need to find, I always go to herbs for this, of course, but there are ways to help loosen up that phlegm that might be stuck in the lungs, to help the cough bring it out, right? The cough itself, of course, if it's unproductive and it's not doing what it's meant to do, can become a problem, but it's not the cough itself that's the problem. It's what's stuck inside that it's not able to dislodge. There's ways to help with this. So this would be a good way to start the process. And then if you need help, then there are people who know lots about herbs, although they don't consult so much anymore. Yeah, but they might have recommendations for you as to where to look. Yeah, long herbs. Okay, which is not the subject of our class tonight. We can always chat about it after in the Q&A. Okay, so from there we go into the kidney. So there's an exercise. So I'm derogating a little bit tonight from what we've been doing. So typically when there's a cold in Chinese medicine, we don't use herbs that are strengthening to the body. So echinacea would not be a chosen herb normally, or even because, so the wisdom is that it may actually strengthen the bug itself. So, but there's an exception to this, and this is what we're going to address with the next motion now, is that sometimes a person is so weak that their immune system is not strong enough to expel. So then in a Chinese herbal formula, there would be herbs to push the bug out, but also herbs to strengthen the immune system, to strengthen the kidneys, to help. But they would be a kind of a secondary amount, right? So it's about, like, if you're feeling yourself feeble, you might want actually to tonify first, bring in some qi so that things, so that your body can perform properly. So this is actually working what we call the belt vessel. So the belt vessel is very unusual. It's the only one that circles the body. It starts at Mingmen. So Mingmen is below the second lumbar vertebrae. It comes to the hip bones and around the ASIS, anterior superior iliac spine. There's two gallbladder points here, and then it comes down to the pubic bone. And its function is to keep things contained so that the meridians flow properly. So there's a very easy exercise for this, where as we move here, we're imagining that we're circling this energy through that belt vessel. We're not necessarily going to spend too much time here because this is just opening that area, because the belt vessel also contains the energy within the kidneys. We're loosening up this area right now. So there's movement in the hips, doing that. What's that? Yes, that's right. So yeah, we can go the other way. Thank you. I was going to get there. Actually, I was stuck in the explanations. So we do both sides. Yeah, both directions. So loosening up the belt vessel first, and then we're going to bring new energy into the kidneys. Right. So loosening. So the second part of this, which is actually my favorite part of this exercise, we start on one side. Doesn't matter which side. You're going to bring both hands, cover. So you're going to reach around to one side from the front. There we go. Right. Now, as you breathe in, you're going to gather new qi to the other side, and then you seal it through the front of the belt vessel into where we started. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, you seal it in. And if you want, here you could gather the deep blue, that's the healing color, the kidneys, tonifying color. And let's do one more on this side. So I invite you to notice here too, so we're going to start from the opposite side, that there's a shift of weight as you reach, right? Again, so as you breathe in, you go from one side, weight shifts to the other leg, and then you return to where you started from. Breathing in as you reach for new qi, breathing out as you seal it in. And one more. And returning to center. So I would say that that is probably as far as you want to go if you have a cold without overexerting yourself, focusing on what needs to be addressed. If you find yourself that maybe a little bit depressed or lacking um, interest, or what would be like maybe feeling bogged down by the lack of movement, so it's been like 5-6 days and you've been sick, I would add the one for the liver, the one we've done so far. And then very gently, right? So if we start on one leg, one hand here, one hand out, and then just moving from one side to the other, and then inviting movement here. So without going too fast, this actually, I'm realizing as I open into this, that it might bring the movement into the body that is not as active as the 5 yang opening, more gentle. That's right. This could be done a lot faster. Sometimes it's done with a lot more punch, a lot more anger releasing. So here we're just inviting the liver to do what it's meant to do, which is distributing qi. That's not the correct wording for its function. It moves qi. So here you can do your 3 out breaths in a row if you want. And then 3 in breath. Nice. It's much gentler than the 5 yen opening, and it's still creating a lot of movement in the body. Depending again on how much energy you've been storing while being in bed, being sick, you might want to do more. So what might be wise to do to complete this is so this whole idea of balancing at the end is essentially is very much inviting the body to do what it does best. It's balancing the yin and the yang, taking the energy when it needs to go, so that the body functions as at optimum. Let's do another exercise that's slightly different. I think I've shared, some of you will recognize this exercise. Bring your left hand up first. And in this hand, imagine gathering the heat and the light of the sun. And you'll recognize that one. Right? So the very yang, the most yang that we know in our solar system, the sun. And then we bring the right hand up, and in this hand, imagine bringing in the light of the moon and the coolness of the moon. Very different. One is definitely yang. The other one is full of light, but it's cool light. It's the most yin light that we know. And then we bring these two in front of our heart. And then we circulate them around the microcosmic orbit. This is the orbit that is created when we circulate qi up the spine, up the governing vessel, and down the front, the conception vessel. And you let your breath be natural here, no focus in particular. So you're bringing up close to your body and down away from your body. So this Oh, I'm doing this wrong. So this is known as the fire cycle. So typically we would have our tongue behind the upper teeth. So imagining circulating this qi up the back, down the front. So what this exercise in particular does differently than Guangdong strokes his beard is it really invites the understanding that this is a continuous flow. It's not just a pearl going around. This flow is constant, and when everything is in harmony and flowing properly, it's flowing equally through all the aspects of the governing and conception vessel. And then we bring our hands back to center, just for fun, just to explore the difference. So I would recommend that when you're dealing with a cold, you just do the one we just did. That's the fire cycle. There's also a water cycle for the microcosm, and there's a few others, but I'm going to do the water right now. So if the tongue is at the front behind your teeth, take your tongue as far back as you can take it, touching the palate. It's not comfortable there. It's a very unusual place. And then we reverse. So we come up, away from the body, down, close to the body. This is the water cycle of the microcosmic orbit. So it comes up the conception vessel and down the back. We're back already? How did we get there? Wow, that's weird. Is that clock on time? Yeah, that doesn't, yeah, there's no way we've done an hour already. Yeah. What happened? Okay, let's get back to center here. Are you just fooling me? Is that, yeah, okay. That's right. That's all right. Yeah. Okay, let's finish with the fire cycle, just a few of those. So the reason for this is that the fire cycle tends to keep us more in our body. The water cycle tends to prepare one's, say, astral flights. So it tends to nourish more the upper dantian, whereas this one tends to nourish more the lower dantian. Okay, and then bring the hands to the center. And then again, acknowledging the sun in the left and the moon in the right. And then bringing them together. So we integrate these, blending them completely, and then bringing that on our heart. And settling our hands down in lower dantian. Now you got me doubting myself. Oh, it is 8:02. I'm surprised, actually. Yeah. Okay. Let's complete our practice tonight by bringing colors in our three-way chi fields. For the first, the physical field, we breathe in white. And surround yourself completely in this white. Beautiful sky, winter sky blue, flame blue. For the mental, emotional, affective field, Wei Chi field. And then light pink, like rose quartz. Emerald pink. And then letting that be the third layer, your spiritual layer that extends beyond the other two. Thank you for being here tonight. And you guys on Zoom, nice to have you.